There we are. Good morning, everybody. Or should I say, I've just been telling my friend Al, who is here, good morning. If you ever watched it, I can't remember the name of the British TV show, but someone out there will remember it. I was watching it the other day. It's actually on Netflix, and it's about the resistance in France during the Second World War. And there's you really don't want to know this. Why am I watching about this? This is so nothing to do with anything at all, except it just came into my head. This guy who's pretending to be French, but is really English, gets all of his French words wrong, and he says good morning. So we don't like good morning. We like good morning. But anyway, blabbering on with nothing to say. So can I first say, I promise this show's going to get better. It can't get much worse. All right. So first of all, I'd like to say good morning to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is always at my right side. I'd like to say good morning to Carolyn, who is at my far right. Say good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, Carolyn.
And thrilled as we are, excited as we are, we also have Al here. Good morning, Al.
Good morning, everyone.
All right, then. We have lots and lots of questions, actually. Before we even went on YouTube, we've got so many questions that people have sent in this time. But should I do the drum roll? Da-da-da-da! Before we go any further, we did have a lovely email from Brother Nate.
Yes.
Who said that you had a dream you won third prize. No. It was a nice dream, though, and perhaps next time. But there are no 1, 2, or 3 prizes anyway. It's just 3 winners. And so there's no first, seconds, or thirds, because I have to tell you, with this competition, I'm really glad that I did it. I know it's been tough for a lot of people, but I'm glad that I did it because I got to know a lot of you and I got to know your stories. And it was a shame, really, that I was not able to give every single person, a prize, because I really read myself. I know people think that I have somebody else doing it for me, but I read every single entry myself. I read all of the stories, even some of them that were perhaps a little bit difficult to get through. It was hard, really, because there were so many of you that I had to be tough. And I had to say, if you hadn't stuck to the criteria, which, first of all, it was the 3 chairs. Second of all, the criteria was that it had to be under, I did go up to 600. I did say, first of all, 500, but I did go up to 600 words. I do have to tell you that Jeff Galusa, who was here a few weeks ago with us on the sofa with his lovely wife Andrea, he topped the charts. Unfortunately, he can't win because I know him, and so although I do want to mention that he did a fantastic job, and at some point in the future I would actually like to read you his entry because it's very concise, which is unusual because he always talks far too much. He's always got so much more to say. And I was surprised that his entry was very concise, very thorough, but really did let us know, indicating the 3 chairs very specifically, which was just wonderful. But so we're announcing, we have sent emails to the 3 people. Can I just have that piece of paper? Thank you. We have sent emails to the 3 people, and in no particular order, because there isn't a first, second, or third. We have Linda, we have Carla, and we have Audrey. And for those 3 of you, we did send you an email to let you know. And once you acknowledge that you've received our email, then we're going to arrange for you to either via Skype or FaceTime. You're going to get me for all of about 15 or 20 minutes. So you have to come up with your one question. I've never done 15 or 20 minutes in my life. So might go a little bit longer.
Just letting you know Linda's live with us now.
Good morning, Linda. Congratulations to you. And we're really thrilled. There was another particular story, which was such a moving story. It was sad. it was funny in parts, and it was so inspirational. Unfortunately, we had to disqualify this person because I can't remember now why. Too
Wasn't
many.
about her.
Oh, the story. Oh, you're right. That's why. So unfortunately, such a lovely lady, and she wrote about someone else's story, which is what a few of you did. How nice of you to do that. Unfortunately, the criteria was it had to be your story. You can't tell somebody else's story as much as you can empathize or sympathize with them. So unfortunately, you were disqualified in that regard. But we shall be doing another competition pretty soon. My birthday's coming. You never know what happens around my birthday. So we might do something for my birthday or not, or we might do something for the end of summer. We shall have to wait and see about that. But thank you to all of you. And Brother Nate, I loved the story. It just went on a bit and a bit more and a bit more. I know you wanted to tell it all to me, but I had to disqualify you, darling, because you went way over the 600 words. So you have to remember that next time. All right. Let's have a question, shall we? Are we ready for our first question? How are you doing there, Al?
I'm doing well.
Good. So let's have a question from, first of all, from
Lauren.
who are you?
Well, Lauren has a question.
Caroline, give me a question.
All right. Hello, Rosemary.
Hi, darling.
What do you suppose a dog would have to say about receiving chemotherapy for their cancer? Would they rather live out their life comfortably without complex surgeries and chemotherapy, or not?
Oh, well,
She's in a situation.
I do have to speak to this particular question because I was in this situation myself. And so I had my little Brittany, her name was Rosie, and she was a darling. She'd been very badly treated, very mistreated for about 2 years, I think, before I had her. And she became my shadow. She walked everywhere with me, and she was very strong-minded. She was definitely a warrior soul, without a doubt. And she was a hunter. She just loved hunting, and she loved sort of going to the ponds. When I lived in Vermont, she loved going to around the lakes and chasing frogs, and she would do all sorts of nasty things with frogs. But she was a darling. But there came a point where she had this, it was a tiny thing, it's the tiniest thing. I noticed that her foot was continually bleeding, and eventually took her to the vet and it turned out that it was a tumor, and it was a spindle tumor. Unfortunately, spindle tumors, they're fairly long. They wrap themselves up and around everything else that's going on there. And so the only thing that could be done for her was either to have her put down. So I know, Lauren, where you're coming from here, or to, they suggested surgery to remove her leg. And it wasn't just a question of removing the leg. They had to take the entire shoulder and leg. And I thought about this for a long time, and for as long as I've got, and really went in depth with it. And I decided for her to have the surgery. She recovered very quickly from the surgery, but she did not recover from the cancer. And I'm going to say less than 9 months later, she died. Would I ever do such a thing again? And, having watched her, she did recover very well from the surgery, but she suffered because the cancer just was everywhere. And would I ever put an animal through that again? You do have to take it on an individual basis, always. And I can't make the choice for you, Lauren. It's your choice. But I know I would look at Rosie and she would look at me. I would sort of look at her. I'd be sitting on one sofa and she'd be sort of looking at, if I was working, she'd be looking at me across from the other sofa. And I knew that she hated being sick, and I knew that she hated, she just, towards the end of her life, she had no life. And so I decided, for the very, very short amount of time that I was able to, that she was able to live, and for the quality of the life that she was able to live, I decided I would never do that again. If it were a young dog, if it were a young animal, I would think twice, but I would always listen to the vet. And, is it worth spending the money? I think the surgery costs something like 5,000, plus then on top of that, all the other stuff that comes along, and the anaesthetist and this and that and the medications and so on and so forth. And a lot of people can't afford it anyway. Is it worth it to have just a few months? Not in my view, not with Rosie. But I have seen dogs who have undergone surgery and have come out and have lived a happy 2 or 3 years longer and been perfectly fine. So what would an animal say? I know that my Rosie probably did not want to carry on. That's the truth of it. You have to feel with your dog. You have to hold your dog. Listen to the heartbeat of your soul. Listen to what your animal is saying to you. Hold on to them. Take out your own emotions if you can. Step back from your own emotions and let your animal tell you, because they will tell you. With my dog Karma years ago, he told me, he just looked at me one day and he told me, as if he spoke out loud, call the vet, it's time. I mean, you have to listen to your animals. So that's the best advice I can do for you, darling. But I've been there, and I'm so sorry for you. And we certainly, if you send this puppy's name to us, we'll certainly send him here. Al, do you want another question, sweetie?
Sure. And just to comment on that, sometimes it's more of a challenge. We had to put down a 1.5-year-old cat. And sometimes it's more of a challenge depending on the age too. So there are a lot of factors that go into it. Our cat had a faulty valve, and the same thing that you said, Rosemary, just kind of looked at me one day and just, you knew he didn't want to continue in the state that he was in.
You've got to try to be sensitive to your animal and let them tell you. You've got to step back from your own emotions, because look, I'm an animal lover. I'm a dog lover. I'm not especially keen on other people's dogs, but I love my dogs. And my dogs get very special, very, very careful treatment. I'm very firm with them, but I'm very, very gentle with them and loving with them. Nobody likes to let go of a pet. Nobody likes it. It's not nice, but set your own emotions to one side. These are the moments. If you have a pet, if you choose to have a pet, then you ultimately choose the pet's well-being above and beyond your own. You've got above and beyond your own emotions and your own wants and your own needs. And it's very frustrating for me sometimes to find that, people who are holding on to their pets because they can't bear to let them go. They're thinking of their own emotions rather than the emotions of the animal, rather than what's best for the animal. Which is why, Lauren, I do love your question, because I know that you're thinking of your little puppy. I know that you're thinking what is right for him. And sometimes you just have to let go and let God. That's the best advice I can give you. Well, I want to say more to you, but I can't. Al, did you have a question?
Yes, we have a question from Bailey.
Who is really Matthew.
Oh, Matthew. Oh, there you go, Matthew.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, then. Good morning, Matthew.
So, Matthew, we have a question from Matthew. What causes residual energy? Is it emotions-based, or do we leave residual energy behind?
Yes, we do. I'm not sure quite if I'd term it residual, but I know what you mean. This is why people who are sensitive, people who are, let's say, psychic or sensitive to energy, this is why when you go into a house, or you go into, even in somebody's bedroom, or when you walk into a hospital, or if you go into, let's say, if you go into an empty house, you can often tell, you can feel, you can sense from that, let's say, that residual energy. You can tell because everything absorbs energy. Walls absorb energy, furniture absorbs energy. This is why psychometry works, Matthew. You can take a piece of jewelry and you can, hold it and you can tell by the, if I teach my students to do this actually, that might be one of the things we'll be doing when we do our online lessons. But you hold a piece of jewelry, and you can sense from the energy from that jewelry all sorts of things about the owner of the jewelry, and it's quite fascinating. And that is from the energy of the person who had it perhaps before. It's perhaps the energy of the person who gave you the piece of jewelry, maybe. But you can tell a lot by tapping into and connecting with that energy. Residual energy makes it sound like it's no longer useful, which it is, because all energy is useful. But I know exactly what you mean, Matthew. I hope that helps you with that question. It was a good question. I like that question. Next question, Carolyn.
We've got a question from Katia from Italy.
From where?
Italy.
The name?
Katia.
Katia. Good morning, Katia.
She's got a question that pertains to a lot of people.
Okay.
I am facing up a very hard period as I lost my job and do want to put an end to my marriage. I would like to have power and braveness to take important decisions, but I cannot. I am blocked. I've always been stopped and blocked to do anything. Please let me know what my angels suggest to do.
Well, okay, the only person who can block any of us is ourselves. I think I write about this in The Eagle and the Rose about fear. And I'm sure in other books I've written about fear. And what blocks us is our own fear, our own nervousness of making a change. Because, changes are always nerve-wracking. We're always afraid. All of us are nervous even, if not afraid, but certainly nervous of change. Even when we want to make those changes. Al just moved from wherever it was. Where were you from? Long Island.
Yes.
To Colorado. And it was a massive change, because not only was it a change of location, it was also a change of moving away from family, moving away from the job that you had, moving away from all of the security that you had. So, but sometimes, even though you're afraid, and we're all afraid of change, every one of us is afraid of change. The only thing I can tell you, Katia, is, and anyone else in this situation is, sometimes the only way to do something, or to be whoever it is you want to be, is to look that fear right in the eye and do what you want to do anyway. It's like jumping off a cliff. And I'll often say to people, if you're going to jump off the cliff, trust. You asked, Katia, what do your angels think of this? Well, trust that your angels are going to catch you. Jump off the cliff. If this is really what you want to do, and if you feel that you're being blocked, it could be that on a subconscious level, you don't want to do these things that you're saying that you want to do. Or it could simply be that you desperately do want to, but you are afraid. So if that is the case, and if you're simply afraid, look that fear in the eye. No matter what, you can do it. Nobody else is stopping you. And no matter what your angels say, if you're the one refusing to face your fear, they can't help you. Your angels can guide you, they can advise you, but you're the one who has to make the move. So, let us know what you do. I promise, if you jump off the cliff, I promise you will not be dashed into pieces on the rocks below.
Al should have a question.
Question? Al?
Yes. So Olivia from Poland.
Good morning, Olivia from Poland. We've got people from all over the place here.
She asks, do we meet God in heaven?
Well, the quick answer is yes, we do. Of course, the real answer is what or who is God. A lot of people think of God, Olivia, as an old man with a big, long, white, flowing beard, white robes, sitting in a big chair, etc. A lot of people visualize, when they visualize God, they visualize him like that. When I visualize God, I visualize God as a power, a force, an energy. I don't visualize God in any form, in any human form, should I say. I visualize God energy, that power and the vitality and the power and the beauty and the pure joy and the pure light of God, which is that incredible, beautiful, good, godly energy. And so, if you view it that way, then yes, those of us who want to, and some of us don't remember, but those of us who want to will certainly be in that place of God, in that place of light, in that place of goodness. And I might be wrong. I might at some point down the line be facing that man with the long white beard and the big flowing robes who'll look at me and say, so you didn't believe in me, right? It's not that I don't believe in God. I just never visualize God as the man with the long white beard and all the rest of it. Next question.
Okay, let's see. This is an interesting question from Paul. Does karma exist? If so, what is it and how does it work? If people do you wrong, did they get a taste of their own medicine?
Oh, I wish. No, pretend I never said that.
Before you answer that, then explain, okay, I had a girlfriend on Facebook the other day who was complaining how her husband broke the car seat because he left the thingy hanging out the door. Later on that day, she didn't pay attention and she hit somebody's mailbox and wiped their little mirror off. And she said, "This is what I get for dogging my normally, wonderful husband." So if that's not karma, what is it? Is that somebody going?
Well, let's just talk about what is karma first of all. What do people assume karma is? Karma is the sort of like the effects of cause and effects is what I'm trying to think of here. So karma is a cause and effect. You do something and then you get something back from what you did. We all know, I mean, realistically, right? Paul, good morning. Hope you're doing all right, sweetie. So we all realistically know that there are so many people who don't get what we might consider their just desserts. They don't get what is given to them. We all know that there are mean people in the world who continue to be mean, and that but I like to think that we create our own karma, so that it's not necessarily that our actions cause reactions against us. I think that if somebody is mean and miserable, they end up being mean and miserable and alone, and that to me is karma. So I don't know that I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know actually, really, because you could say, as in, yes, your girlfriend, she gave her husband a hard time and it backfired on her. You could say that. I was out the other day and I was laughing because I was having a bit of a moan and a complaint about a driver who was trying to run me off the road. I mean, literally, and I was not saying nice things. So in the end, I pull over to get out of the way, and because I had to, because we were on a one-lane road, and this person was being very, very aggressive. And I was doing the speed limit, maybe slightly over, so I wasn't about to get a ticket just because somebody else was in a hurry. And I actually pulled over and hit my tire, and the tire split, and I ended up sitting on the side of the road with the AA, waiting for the garage to come. I have a great garage in Sarasota. Ron is my favorite person. He's the mechanic who always sees to my car. But I did have to sit in the car and laugh to myself, because I was not very nice when I was saying things about this woman who was trying to push me off the road. It was not being very nice. So, did I deserve it? I don't know, really.
I don't know if you deserve
probably.
That.
Yeah, because it cost me a lot of money in the end. Anyway, but I don't know, Paul. So we like to think that people get what we call their just desserts, but the evidence shows us completely differently, because so many people who are mean seem to prosper so much more than other people. Al, you have a comment about this at all?
Yeah, you've spoken to me in the past about if you put negative energy out there, it kind of goes out into the universe exponentially, gains speed, comes back. Is that related to karma, or is that something completely different?
Well, I think it's it's all it's a good. That's a good point. It's all everything's all related to everything else, isn't it? So, it's about energy, and I do know that if you put out negative thoughts towards someone, you can actually do a lot of damage to that person. So you need to be careful about your thoughts, and you need to be careful about the sorts of situations that can occur when you use your energy negatively. I don't know that it's karma. I don't know really. Um, I'm passing on that. Good question. I'm not sure I've answered it, but a good question just the same. Thanks, Paul. That really got us thinking there for a minute.
I've got another
If anybody else has got any comments, please feel free to join in. Yes.
Okay. Aubrey asks,
Good morning, Aubrey.
I've been told that I am a natural medium, quote unquote. My question is, what is it that you sense or see if you sit with someone who is a natural medium?
I hate this question.
Tell the story of the woman who went to see the medium.
Yeah, right. It's going to sound a little bit like sour grapes when I say this to you. People get the impression that I'm always coming down on people who claim to have a mediumistic gift, and it's not that at all. It's that if you have a heart surgeon that's standing in his operating room with his scalpel over, and there's another guy who's also claims to be a heart surgeon, but is not nearly so proficient or is not nearly so qualified. Is the heart surgeon then to just keep quiet and allow the patient to possibly die under the knife of this other guy, or is the true heart surgeon going to say, please don't do that because you don't know enough, you're not knowledgeable enough? I'm using the analogy of the heart surgeon because I can tell you from all of my thousands of years of experience, when people come to see somebody like me, they come often because they're distressed. They're very vulnerable. They're very likely to listen to what you say to them, and they're very, very likely to take notice because they come very often because they're vulnerable. Why, what we do as mediums, all of you out there who are mediums and who do this work, please pay attention. I'm sure you understand. You have to be so careful and you have to be so responsible in what you tell people and how you tell them things and the way that you tell them things, because we can do so much damage, much more damage than an inexperienced heart surgeon can do, I can tell you, because we not only affect people's lives, we affect people's hearts, we affect people's minds. So I don't think in my entire career that I've ever told someone, yes, you can be a medium. It's not in me to do it. I cannot do it. And to be perfectly honest, I've never met anyone who I would want to put that burden onto anyway, because it is a huge burden. However, I've met many people who are what I term sensitive. They are not that they're sensitive to in their feelings and such, but is there a problem here? But
yeah, the feed just went.
Oh, can you hear me, Al?
Okay.
Okay, but they're not the. I don't. When I refer to people who are asensitive, I don't mean people who are just sensitive with their emotions and so on. I mean people who are sensitive to outside influences, and there are many of us who are very sensitive to those outside influences. We have dreams, or we sense something, or we feel something. Al is one of those people. I would never in a million years say to Al, you too can be a medium, because honestly, why would anybody want to have this responsibility? There are not too many incredible heart surgeons around. Why would anybody want that responsibility? So it's given to few, as it should be. But I've often said to people, you need to develop your sensitivity to become more aware of those around you in the spirit world. You need to be much more, you can develop this, and you can do much more than this, which again, I come back to our classes. This is one of the reasons why we're doing the classes, so that people can become more sensitive, much more aware, and so on. And Al, I know that you can speak to this, but before I ask you to do that, I just do want to tell you the story of the dangers of going to somebody like me and listening to everything we say and doing everything. When I talk to people, I don't say you've got to do this, this, and this. I give them suggestions, and I give them alternatives. I give them different ways of doing things. And so you've got to be very, very, when you go to see someone like me, you've got to be very, very careful. And there's a story that explains this. And this happened many, many years ago in England. There was a woman who used to come to the town of Scunthorpe, which is on the east coast of England. It used to be an old steel town. Probably is still a steel town. Yeah, probably still a steel town. But anyway, and this woman used to come once a year, and people just got to know when she was coming, before the days of emails and all the rest of it. But people just got to know when she was coming. And she would have, a week. She'd spend a week in a hotel, and through that week, people would come, and they would come and, just interact with her, and she would, give them messages. She claimed to be a medium. Well, I had a lady who came to see me who'd been to see this other woman, and this woman had told her, your husband is having an affair, is cheating on you, blah, 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 and gave her all the details and so on and so forth. And this woman was so traumatized that she went home, packed her bag, and left her husband and left him a note. I know you're having an affair, blah, blah, blah. Well, they'd been married for 15 years. And I have to tell you that her husband had been totally faithful to her in all those 15 years. About 10 days later, when this woman came to her senses and she realized, hold on a minute, maybe I should have asked my husband before I left him. Maybe we should have talked about it, or at least I should have given him the benefit of the doubt, as opposed to believing a stranger. She then very much went to her husband, and she wanted her husband back. She wanted her marriage back to how it was. Unfortunately, her husband's view was, if you believe a total stranger and you don't even give me the benefit of the doubt, at least to ask me before you pack your bags, we never had the marriage that I thought we had. And he ended up divorcing her. And the woman came to try to talk to me, to try to figure out, if she could get him back and how she could get him back, and so on and so forth. You have to be careful when you come to see someone like me, real or otherwise. You can't just do something just because somebody says that this is what you should do, especially if you don't even know this person. As a medium, I'm very, very careful of my responsibilities. So I might make suggestions, but I will always give people perhaps two roads to go in, two choices in which to go. You've got to be just really careful when you go to see someone like me. You've just got to be really, really careful about listening to that person. Al, did you need to say anything about that?
No, I think you always say to be skeptical, and I think that applies even if you are a sensitive. That applies for me, it applies to, there are moments I have that are very, very clear, but there are moments that that are muddled. I'm lucky to have you in my life to get that clarification, but, be skeptical, use the 3-time rule to make sure that the message is what you think it is, because there have been times when I thought it was clear and, I'm completely off base. So, and that's why I wouldn't be a medium ever.
I'd kick you if you came to me and said that's what you were going to do. All right, let's have another question, shall we, Al?
So Vicky, and this is a question about the frequency of signs from those who've passed. She says, my son used to send me signs frequently, but I don't think they are coming anymore. He's been gone nearly 5 years. And she asked, will I no longer see these signs?
I'm sure you will. I'm sure that the signs are there. It may well be that you're not looking so intently as you used to, Vicky. I'm not suggesting for a minute that you're over the situation, because you never will be, and you know that. But life goes on, and other things get in the way, as they should, and that it's a good thing, and it's a good thing you're not so, intent anymore on, because it means that you're finding your way through life. You're finding another way, and you're making a life for yourself, which is what your son wants you to do. It also could be that he maybe has decided, we've already been told no. I was going to say to you, but Grey Eagle's put his hand on my shoulder, and I actually see the young man standing in front of me here. So that was totally unexpected. I was going to say it could be, which it is sometimes, those in the spirit world feel that you're becoming more dependent on them, so they back away a little bit to let you find your feet. But Vicky, apparently, according to Grey Eagle and according to this young man, who I suspect might be your young man, according to them, that isn't the case in your case. I think it's, that he's been a bit busy, apparently. He's laughing at me as I'm talking to you. He's been a little bit busy, but he loves you just the same, and he does send you signs, different signs. So now you've got to look for different things. So I think he's sending you signs in a different way. So hope that helps you, darling. I'd love to hear a comment from you there. So, just anyway, I keep just tickling with this blouse. This thing, it's actually, there. This thing is over, what did we say, over 40?
Yes, yeah.
Over 40 years old.
And we gotta
anyway, go on.
We have to let everybody know, for some reason the feed's gone out twice. I'm not sure what's going on, but if you just restart the video, it comes back up.
Okay, so just click back on it again, and it'll come back up again then. Right. So any comments? And Vicky, that's lots of love to you from you know who. So that's a big sign right there for you. Do you have a question, Carolyn?
Yes, we do. We have Vera.
Good morning, Vera.
Rosemary, do you believe in angels? And have you seen some?
Do I believe in angels? You've never read my books. My goodness me. Of course I believe in angels. I tell a great story. I can't remember which book it's in now, but I do. It might have been The Eagle and the Rose. But I do tell the story of the first time I ever saw an angel. And I do tell a story, as many of you will know, of the drunken woman in the church, who it turns out was also an angel, who looked just like a drunken woman. Anyway, so the answer is a quick one, and yes, I do, very much so. And I've seen them, and they come in many forms. And remember, we talked before about Tomas, who is an earth angel. He's still with us. I spoke to his mum. I know that lots of you will be wanting to know how he's doing, and he's doing great. The new book, which I'm sort of like halfway through the last chapter now, is coming out very soon, and I tell the story of Tomas, the beautiful earth angel who is still with us here on this earth, but an angel nevertheless. So lots and lots of angels and angel stories right there. Al, question. Are you there? Did I lose you?
Nope, I'm here. Adrian asks, actually, a two-part question.
Yep.
Do people in heaven miss things they used to do on earth, like food, music, and traveling? And then also, when pets die, are they in heaven with people or just around other animals?
I don't know why, but the story comes to mind of the woman who came to see me for a consultation, and she wanted to talk to her husband. And I saw this man in the spirit world, and he had 2 geese, one under each arm. I might have told this story before, but it's an animal story. So he had 2 geese, one under each arm, and I'm thinking, I can't tell this woman that there's a guy here with 2 geese, one under each arm. She'll think I'm nuts, because who would even think to see such a thing? So I at first I didn't say anything, and he kept saying to me, "You've got to tell her. You've got to tell her that they're here with me. You've got to tell her." And I kept saying to him, "Can you just tell me a bit more about yourself before I dive in?" And he wouldn't do it. He was laughing at me. So in the end, I said to her, "You're probably going to think I'm nuts, but I've got a gentleman here in the spirit world, and he has a goose under each arm. There are two geese. He has one under each arm." She burst into tears. Burst into tears. These were their pet geese that had them. Geese live for a long, long time, apparently. They'd had them for years and years and years. They had died. A husband had died. But they were their precious, precious, precious pets. So that should answer the question. Those geese were with him, and I'm sure that when she passed, they'd be with her as well. So, yes, sometimes it's pretty much like anything else. If they have a good owner who loves and worships them, as I do my puppies, I'm desperately hoping they're going to be waiting for me. I should be just inundated with animals. And even as I'm speaking to you, I can see my darling Nino right in front of me, which is kind of a bit upsetting, really, but nicely, in a nice way. Because he was my darling a Labrador, and beautiful boy he was, is, should I say. God, did you hear me say was? Did you? If anyone else said that to me, I'd look at them and say, don't say they were, they are. So people in the spirit world do travel. They don't give up travel. I've heard music many times from the spirit world, so I know that there's music in the spirit world. I don't know about the tasting food stuff, but they do seem to be to this. Lots and lots of things that people in the spirit world do love to do and do love to enjoy. I think if they're going to miss anything at all, I think it's probably missing our arms around them, their arms around us. I think it's missing the human contact, but that will happen, and they know that all they have to do is wait for a while, and they'll get all of that back. Let's have our next question. Do we have another question? We seem to have quite a few questions coming on here. Let's do them thick and fast then. Let's go. Azana. Wow, a nice name.
I want to know if you've ever channeled a skeptic, someone who didn't believe in psychics when they were alive. I have many relatives who believe psychics are the work of the devil. What happens to people like that when they pass?
Well, I'm going to take issue, first of all, how's she saying it?
I have many relatives who believe psychics are the work of the...
Azana. I'm trying to remember that name. I'm going to take issue, first of all, because I don't channel, actually. That's what I do not do. I do not channel anybody. So, this is what I do. I talk to people one-on-one. I talk to people in the spirit world. I see them. I sense them, I feel them around me. If I can't have a one-on-one conversation with them, then I can't do it, because it's the only way. So I have conversations with people in the spirit world. I don't sit there and channel anybody. We have a conversation. I'll ask them questions. They give me answers, or they'll tell me stuff, and I'll repeat what they're telling me to other people. So I think channeling is... The first time I heard the expression channeling was I think an American term, and I think it means that you sit there and you go into some sort of either a trance state or a semi-trance state, whatever it is, and then people are supposed to come through you like this. When I'm giving consultations, I talk to people in the spirit world one-on-one. I see them, I describe them as best I can. So it's a very different thing than channeling. What was the question after that? And have I ever spoken to anyone who was skeptical when they were on this earth? Oh, many times. So many times. I've had people say, "Oh, we're so surprised to get here." I can't believe, I can't believe what happened to me. So yes, many, many times I've spoken to people and we've laughed about it, or people have said, I didn't believe in this stuff when I was there, but now I'm here, I've got to. So yes, so it's fun when you do that, and it's nice because then you can see, that person might have been skeptical, but at the same time, they've had a whole new world open up in front of them, which is fantastic. And for those of us who have people, you have family who are skeptical, I understand. For those who have, there's nothing wrong with being skeptical. Don't try to convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced. Nothing wrong with being skeptical, because you and I, we know that sooner or later they're going to find out that it's real. So let's have a question from Al.
Matthew just had a comment real quick. He does not think you are the devil, so that's good to know.
Thank you.
And Ashley has a follow-up question from earlier about God and God energy. Have you ever met?
Matthew. Good morning, Ashley.
Have any of the people who have crossed over told you that they have met God?
Yes. But in what form? You know, that no one has ever been explicit enough to say, you know, man with a long white beard. But yes, people do say that they're with God, and that God surrounds them, which is why I've come to the conclusion myself that God is more of that force, that power, and that beautiful, incredible energy of light and goodness, as opposed to the man sitting on the throne. So, you know, I think it's important to understand. We all have our views on things, and I'm not saying, I've already said earlier, I might be surprised when I get there to find I'm standing in front of this big red throne with a man with a long white beard, and I shall laugh. And I hope he laughs as well when he says, look, hey, got it wrong. I can get it wrong. We all can get it wrong. So, you know, I'm just, you know, whenever the time comes and it's my time, I'm sure that there'll be some things I got wrong, and I'm sure that there'll be many things that I got right. So we'll see. But thanks. And thanks, Matthew, for saying I'm not the devil. That's so sweet too. You're so nice. All right.
We have
question?
Annie.
Who?
Annie.
Annie. Good morning, Annie.
Annie lost her partner last May, and she just wants to know if he is around her.
I'm asking Gregor this one, Annie, because you know, we don't. I always tell people, well, that's not what this show is about. We don't give messages and so on and so forth, but we do from time to time, because as you saw, I don't know if we've heard back from Lauren, but I hope she enjoyed that little message that she got. So as I'm chattering away to you, but I'm also listening to Gregor at the same time, and I'm told to tell you that he's right by your side. But I'm also curious as to why you asked the question, because I think you already knew the answer anyway. And apparently you had a few little issues prior to his passing, but the love that comes from this man to you is beyond anything that I can describe. And Gregor says, full of light, full of hope, full of love, right by your side. So I hope that helps you. Next question.
Matthew has a...
Again?
Yeah,
Matthew.
it's kind of a good question.
All right, go ahead.
Aren't all the real mediums a part of that science organization? I don't remember the name.
Sorry, what?
Aren't all real mediums a part of the science organization? He doesn't remember the name.
Not
but
me.
Is there an organization that you belong to?
No. I'm an individual all by myself. I learned so many years ago. There's the, I mean, I can only think of the SAGB, which is the Spiritual Association of Great Britain. And there are numerous. There's all sorts of organizations. But I learned many, many years ago, some organizations can stifle you. They can, you know, put you in a box. And it's very easy to allow yourself to be put in a box. I've always worked by myself. I had my own organization for many, many years, and we've got things going off in here. So I had, you know, I've always tried to not. I'm not a member of any spiritualist church. I'm not a member of any church of any kind. I'm an individual. So So just because an organization says that somebody is what they are doesn't necessarily mean that they are what they say they are. I know some mediums in the SAGB who are brilliant, and I know many who are not. You have to be skeptical, figure it out for yourself, be skeptical, and don't afraid to be skeptical. Don't afraid to question what somebody like me or someone who says like me will say to you. Be skepticism, as long as it's not, as long as you're not skeptical to the point of closing the door on any ideas. Skepticism, a good dose of skepticism is very healthy. Al, do we have a question?
Yes, actually, Chris, our friend Chris asks, she's actually asking for George. And she says, George asks, under the premise.
Asking for George. What's that going on?
I don't know.
Is she interfering? Never. Not our Chris.
No, definitely not.
Go on, Chris. Yes.
It's slightly political, but I think okay. Under the premise that there's good and bad in everything, what can we do? What can we hold on to? What is the treasure that will come from the disconnect between current leaders and the general public? So under the premise that there's good and bad in everything, what we can do to hold on to what is the treasure?
Well, the treasure is your own heart. That's it. Because politicians, they do rule the country, and they, and I know a lot of people aren't happy. I also know a lot of people who are happy with what's going on. It doesn't matter who it is, and it doesn't matter how good a president we have, or how good a prime minister we have, or how good any leader is of any country or any organization. It doesn't matter how good they are. You can never, and we should never, tolerate meanness, and we should never, ever tolerate cruelty in any guise whatsoever. The treasure is that your heart will know that. If you are a good person, your heart will know that. We've had wonderful leaders in the past who felt it necessary to shine meanness and nastiness and intolerance and unfairness. They might be good leaders, but they're not good people. You have to decide on, what is a good person? Is this a person you want to follow? Quite frankly, anyone who is unfair or treats people unfairly, I would never follow that person. And anybody who's mean to anybody else would never follow that person either. You have to take with the good with the bad, because we cannot decide as individuals who's going to run the country. But what we can decide is what our heart tells us, and what we can decide is the way that we behave. Just because you might have a president who thinks it's fun to disparage other people doesn't mean you have to join in. So, just because you belong to an organization, a church even, where you find a vicar or a minister or a rabbi or anybody disparaging anybody else or being mean to anybody else, leave that place. Leave that place. If you've got a good heart, you would never follow anyone like that. The treasure is in your own heart, and the treasures are for each of us as individuals to decide. Any comments quickly from either of you guys here on that? Quick. No, you're saying no. You got nothing to say.
But I don't know. I don't like the meanness. The meanness just. No.
Well, from anybody.
Yeah.
From anybody. Yeah. We're not getting into politics. Yeah. It's across the board. Al, anything across the board? I'm sure Chris will have something to say.
Just that there are certain things, like you said, you can't control. The only thing you can control is your own reaction and your own emotions. And with meanness, sometimes that inspires others to stand up too. And that's a positive side effect.
I will say one thing, because I don't really try not to get involved in politics, because that's not what I'm about. But I will say one thing. I hear all the time of people face on Facebook, on Messenger, on wherever it is, people in social media who are making disparaging and mean comments about somebody else, and then somebody else comes in and makes a mean comment about them, and before you know it, you've got friends who have been friends for years who are not friends anymore. You've got families who are fighting with each other. You know, words are important. If you've got something to say to someone, and I use this rule always, if you've got something to say to someone, and that someone is a person, you know, at least you might have a little bit of love for or respect for, whatever. Just don't use social media to just slap someone upside of the head. You know, it takes courage to go and face someone and do it nicely. Don't be mean about it. You can say whatever it is you're feeling, but you don't have to be mean, and you don't have to be spiteful. You don't have to be disparaging. You have to be tolerant and loving and caring. So, you know, if you want to join in all that stuff that goes on in social media, remember tolerance. You treat people as you would have them treat you. You know, we talked, I think last week or the week before, somebody asked a question, what does Grey Eagle say, you know, of our world? And Grey Eagle came right back, and he's always said it to me, your world needs gentleness. And if without that, any one of you out there, if you don't have gentleness and if you don't have tolerance, then you don't have God. Just think about that. If you don't have gentleness and all you want to do is say mean things, then go to church and pray. Forget it. Forget it. Nobody's going to be listening to you. If you don't have gentleness, then you don't have God, because God is light and God is purity and God is love. And if you don't show it, you know, where are you showing God? You can't be godly one minute and not the next. So your treasures are in your heart, the way you behave and the words that you use. And remember, when you're talking to someone and they misunderstand something that you said, you can correct them because you're facing them. You can say, no, that's not what I meant. I meant such and such. But words, people misinterpret words all the time. And it may be not what you meant at all, but nobody's listening because everybody's up in arms because they've read what they think you meant as opposed to what you really meant. So you've got to be so careful. And just remember, our world needs gentleness and our world needs kindness and loving. And, you know, please remember that the next time you feel tempted to, you know, I mean, I've already told you the story. I'm sitting here, you know, don't mean to lecture anybody. I was in the car last week and somebody tried to run me off the road and I was not nice and wasn't particularly kind either. But, you know, it's hard to be those things. But before you actually dive in, before you really, really actually dive in to cause, to speak up, think about what you're going to say and think about the way you're going to say it. As Al said, yes, when you see injustice, it drives people to stand up. But if you're going to stand up, do it in the right way. Don't do it aggressively or meanly or in an intolerant way. Stand up and say what you think, but do it gently and do it kindly and do it nicely. That's all I'm saying on the subject. Another question, Carolyn.
Sarah wants
Morning,
to know,
Sarah.
do you communicate with patients or clients through their dreams?
I do. Well, you know, yes, depending what a dream is, but yes, I'll often visit my patients while they're in that sleep state. And many of my patients will say to me, oh, I saw you last night, or I felt somebody sit on the bed. Was that you? So yes, I do. I do communicate in that way. Again, it's all about energy, Sarah. Good question. Thank you for that. Al, question?
A comment from Annie, who lost her partner. She said, "For the longest time, I thought he didn't even love me," and you were right on.
Well, as we said, and I tried to be very gentle, Annie, about it, and I tried also not to let everybody else in the world know, but you did have issues, and I was very gentle and very caring as to how I said that to you, because I know how important that is, and I know that because Grey Eagle told me that it was, even though you didn't think he loved you, it was important to you that that he did, because you're such a gentle and kind soul in so many ways. You do get a bit uppity though, just need to control that. But yes, he does love you, darling, and thank you for the comment. I appreciate that. Yes,
One more question.
go ahead. Well, it might be in time I decide on 2 or 3. You never know.
Okay. Well, this applies, could be for a lot of people.
Okay.
Ashley.
Good morning again.
And
Ashley, didn't we have
Ashley-
Ashley already?
Yes.
Okay.
And Ashley is in South America, I believe.
Good morning. Wow, nice.
Well, evening.
Evening, yeah, well.
South Africa, yes.
Oh, South Africa. Whereabouts, I'd like to know, in South Africa. I've been to South Africa. So anyway,
Okay.
what's the question?
I went to a medium in February and my mom came through. However, my dad had passed away 2 years ago before my mom didn't. We weren't close while he was still alive. Is that the reason he didn't come?
I don't think so. I'm glad you had a great experience. That's nice. Ashley, and no, I don't. It may be that your mother had too much to say, because I have had situations where someone comes through from the spirit world and they'll literally take over. This is where I'm lucky, because Gregor will always say, move over, Casanova, let somebody else have a turn. But sometimes if it's important for that person, and maybe it was very important for your mother to do all the talking on that occasion, maybe the next time you go, your father will come through. I'm sure he's there. I'm sure he's, it doesn't matter whether he was close to you or not, but perhaps your mother had so much to say, and maybe the medium didn't have enough time to be able to give to your father as well. So it could be that. I think it's pretty much that. Al, quick question. Al, quick question.
I've got
It's
one.
gone. Let's go. Yeah.
All right. Adrian asks, Rosemary, I believe in God and Jesus. I say my prayers, but I don't go to church. Do you have to go to church to please God and Jesus?
No. I believe that, well, I know that Christ is my savior, because he saved me again and again and again on many, many occasions. And even when I'm giving healing, I know that he's always there with me, and helping me in whatever way. He was an inspiration to me since the time I can remember, since I was a little girl. I used to belong to the Church of Christ. I don't belong to a church anymore. I do go sometimes to church and church services, but I go more out of curiosity than anything else. But no, darling, you don't have to go to any particular church. You just have to live in a good way, in a right way, and do the best you can in your life. But thank you for that question. Al, do you have a quick question?
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, my mute would not unmute.
Oh, God.
Olivia asked.
That way nobody can hear you. That's how the spirit world feels. They're trying to talk to us and we're not listening half the time. But anyway, yes.
Olivia actually asks, is there a difference between people who grew up on Earth and people who died right after birth, and have not experienced pain on Earth? She says.
That's a good question. Unfortunately, it requires a longer answer than we've got time for. But so I'll say this: that when people when we have that, that we have that very short experience of being in the womb or of taking our first breath, it's because we want that experience. But I don't think that it's the question that we never feel pain, because we can see our loved ones, we can see our families, and we're with our families often. A little bit like the twins who I told the story of a week or two ago. The twin boy died when he was, I think he only lived a few days, if not 4 days or something. But he felt the pains, the agonies, and the joys and the happiness of his twin sister all through, all through his life, and will continue to do so until she passes. So, we do experience pain, even though it might not be in the same way as we experience it on an earthly level. One more question, Carolyn. Quick question.
Well, Ashley is just letting us know she's in Johannesburg.
Nice. I've been there. I've been to Johannesburg.
All right, the last question. Through Lily's eyes.
Morning, Lily.
Hello, Rosemary. Life has thrown a boulder to my son. Will he learn whatever he needs to learn and be okay?
Yes, would you like to email us with that? Maybe you can give us a little bit more, and I'll do my very best to answer you. But I'm asking Grey Eagle. He's with his hand on my shoulder. I think he'll be okay eventually. It'll take him a little bit of time, but I think he'll be okay eventually.
Rosemary, can I just ask one thing from Casey?
Yes, go ahead, Casey. Yes,
Casey misses an aunt and a grandma so much, and looking for signs, and they're struggling so much. What are the signs, I guess, that this person could look for?
I'm asking Grey Eagle this one because we all get different signs. Some people get pennies, some people get feathers. You know, they're very common things. So, Casey, you need to look for birds. All right. Your loved ones will bring you messages from what we always call, what the Native Americans refer to as those tiny winged creatures. So those tiny winged creatures are butterflies, dragonflies, anything that flies around, brings us love and brings us happiness, brings us joy. So I think that look for those tiny winged creatures, birds, anything that has wings. And very often those in the spirit world will whisper in the ear of the bird. Birds, you're going to tell me birds don't have ears, but they do hear. Or they'll whisper to the butterfly, or they'll whisper to the dragonfly, will you just go visit this person or that person? So those in the spirit world will often use those tiny winged creatures to bring us messages. And the Native Americans believed this wholeheartedly. And I believe this wholeheartedly, and I've seen it for myself and experienced it for myself. So that case is, what you need to do. So to have heart, because they will let you know. And don't be too despairing of them. I'm sure, in fact, I'm asking Greg, and he's nodding away. They are really well. They're fine, and they often visit with you. I'm sure they do. So don't just be despairing of them. When we're grieving, it's probably usually for ourselves, isn't it? Because we're the ones who are having to do without our loved ones. But be happy for them, Casey. Please be happy for them, because I'm sure they're fine. Watch for those tiny winged creatures. All right, that's all we have time for today. We have gone over time. However, if you would like to know more about us, email us rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Keep watching. If you want to be involved in our online courses, we're limiting it. It's going to be, very minimal fee of $25 a month, which is, as somebody makes me smile, less than a cup of coffee a week. We're trying to make it available to as many people as we possibly can. So if you want to know more about that, or if you want to be involved, email us. In the subject line on your email, if you can just write classes or online classes, then we put them in a folder. But if you want to be on our mailing list for any reason, you want to know what else we're doing, where else I'm going, etc., rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. We are on Meetup, saying hello to everybody on Meetup. We are on Facebook. We're on Twitter and Messenger and Instagram and all those other places. We're on social media, I should say social media. And thank you to Paul, because Paul is the one who actually got me on social media in the first place. And I really need him to help me with that, by the way. If you're still listening, Paul, if you're still there. All right. So if you need me, if you just want to chat to me, if you are the winner of the competition, can we have the names again? Can you give me that piece of paper? I'd like to mention again, the winners of the competition are Linda, Carla with a K, and Audrey. And if you can email us, when we've sent the emails out to you, if you email us back, and we'll set up your little sessions with me as soon as we possibly can. You might have to wait a little while, but they're yours. You won them, and we'll let you know what our next competition is and what the next prize is going to be. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe. The more you subscribe, the more we can do on YouTube. We actually saw, Carolyn saw, we've got 34,000 views on one of our videos. We're not sure what's fascinating about that one, but go check out all the videos that you might not have seen, and click on subscribe. And until next week, when we should be here again, thank you very much, Al, for joining us. You were a joy to have. Carolyn, thank you. Gregor, thank you always, of course, to Gregor. And until we meet again, please have a very, 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 very blessed day. And I've got to find the little red button to, who knows where it is. There it is. I got it now. Yep, there. Have a blessed day.